Hi, I'm Sana Chowdhury. I'm a subject specialist at the PSHE Association. Welcome to the 5th episode of Ask a Subject Specialist, where I and other members of the subject specialist team answer your questions about PSHE. We've had many questions on a range of topics, which I'll be answering in today's episode. If your question isn't answered in today's episode, please do keep watching, as it may well be answered in a future episode. If you have any pressing questions, please do contact us using the email address listed below, and a member of the subject specialist team will reply to you. In today's episode, we'll be covering a range of topics. I'll begin by looking at teaching consent at primary school and what the statutory guidance is, including resources you may find useful. I'll then move on to whose responsibility it is to manage recent findings about sexual harassment in school, and we will also look at some useful resources to support staff and pupils with this topic. Next, we'll address how to use PSHE education to address local data, which suggests obesity levels are rising. And finally, we'll be talking about how to evaluate PSHE leadership and which resources you may find useful to support you with this. The questions that we have today are quite diverse, so let's get started on answering the first one. So our first question is, I'm worried about teaching consent at primary school. What's age appropriate and what should I be covering? So this is a really interesting question, and it's great to hear that you've been thinking about teaching consent and how best to do this, ensuring that your coverage is age appropriate. So firstly, let's take a look at what the Department for Education's statutory guidance recommends. So using this as a baseline to understand what must be taught is a great place to start, and it explains what pupils should know by the end of their time at primary school. So by the end of primary school, pupils should know that their body belongs to them. They should know the differences between appropriate and inappropriate or unsafe physical or other types of contact. The guidance also states that pupils should know the importance of permission seeking and giving, and know what boundaries are appropriate in friendships with peers and others, including online. The guidance also highlights that pupils should know how to ask for advice or help for themselves or others, and to keep trying until they are heard. So let's look at how to plan for this learning within a wider PSHE curriculum. So I would recommend that any teaching about consent is done as a part of a wider PSHE curriculum, ensuring that there is a spiral approach so that knowledge is built on year after year and pupils' skills and attributes are developed gradually. And by using our program of study and our program builders will support you with doing this. So not only do they cover the statutory guidance within the core themes of relationships and health and well-being, they also cover topics within the core theme living in the wider world. There are suggestions for when to teach topics, and this ensures that learning opportunities are covered at age-appropriate stages. Using these and the statutory guidance will give you a broad overview of where to start and support you with planning consent within your curriculum. So this exemplar long-term overview and extract from a medium-term overview give you an idea of how and where consent might fit into your curriculum. So teaching about consent begins in Key Stage 1, when we teach younger pupils about permission. So for example, we begin teaching them about asking or giving permission to share a toy, borrow some school equipment, or invite someone to play with them. Where the red dots are placed on the overview indicate where consent is addressed through these particular learning opportunities. And as you will see, pupils learn about consent throughout their time at primary school, which means that their knowledge and skills and attributes are developed and built on gradually. They will learn the fundamental building blocks about consent and build on their knowledge by moving on to exploring this topic in greater detail. So for example, checking before holding someone's hand or asking before giving someone a hug. However, it is important to point out that it is up to schools when topics are covered and whether they need to be repeated to ensure that pupils have a solid understanding of the topic. And to support you with planning and teaching consent lessons at an age-appropriate level, we've recently developed a new consent pack. It has lessons for Key Stage 1 all the way to Key Stage 4 and addresses topics such as rights and the rights of others. It addresses topics such as the importance of communication and the freedom and capacity to make choices. All lessons come with detailed lesson plans, resources, and PowerPoints to support your teaching. Some examples of lessons in this pack include asking for permission at Key Stage 1, giving and seeking permission, personal boundaries, and appropriate and inappropriate touch at Key Stage 2. So I hope that's given you some guidance about teaching consent at primary age and where to start, beginning with the statutory guidance and what you should be covering, and then our programme of study and programme builders, giving you a clearer idea of what year groups could be covering, and then signposting you to our consent pack, which will support you with your teaching of this topic. So our next question is, I've seen a lot about sexual harassment in schools recently, but isn't it the job of my school's designated safeguarding lead to manage? So another really interesting question. So let's dive right into answering this. So first of all, let's take a look at some of the points from the Ofsted report. These findings are important for us to consider, especially when thinking about addressing sexual harassment from a PSHE education perspective. So firstly, the review revealed that sexual harassment and online sexual abuse was so common for children and young people that they see no point in reporting them. So 92% of girls and 74% of boys said sexist name calling happens a lot, or sometimes to them or their peers. Nearly 90% of girls and nearly 50% of boys said being sent explicit pictures or videos of things they did not want to see happens a lot. However, professionals consistently underestimated the prevalence of online abuse, even when there was a proactive whole school approach to tackling sexual harassment and violence. From this, we can understand that it isn't only happening to some young pupils and that incidents are commonplace, including online. So there's a gap in young people's knowledge and they need to be supported to develop their skills and attributes, which will support them. So let's take a look at what the role of the PSHE education is, and more specifically, what the statutory guidance states with regards to sexual harassment. So tackling sexual harassment in schools should definitely be a whole school responsibility. So let's now look at the role of the DSL and what the wider school community can do to support addressing sexual harassment. So firstly, the designated safeguarding lead is responsible to carry out any investigations for incidents that have taken place. They will also be responsible for the way incidents are reported in the school and how the school encourages incidents to be reported. The DSL will also set whole school expectations and challenge unacceptable behaviours. They will also need to plan how those pupils who have been affected are supported and identify specific areas around the school site that might pose a risk. So, for example, areas which are unsupervised. However, it is also everyone's responsibility in school to see and name the problem. Collectively, everyone should tackle any type of low-level behaviour which contributes to the culture and is often passed off as banter or as having a joke. So having clear sanctions and new narratives in place to deter any of those behaviours which contribute to sexual harassment in schools is also incredibly important. And having a whole school approach to support those who are affected is vital. This will include reviewing any current procedures to report incidents and communicating updates and changes with staff so that everyone is kept up to date. So by the end of secondary school, pupils should know what constitutes sexual harassment and sexual violence and why these are always unacceptable. So yes, whilst it will also be the job of the DSLs in your school to address sexual harassment on a wider school level, it's definitely an area which needs to be covered by the PSHE curriculum. It will need to be planned for carefully and be part of a spiral curriculum, which builds on pupils' knowledge gradually rather than a knee-jerk reaction. So the guidance also states that pupils should know how stereotypes can cause damage, especially those based on sex, gender, race, religion, sexual orientation, or disability. And that specifically sexual explicit material can damage the way people see themselves in relation to others and negatively affect how they behave towards sexual partners. So using our program of study and our program builders will support you when you're planning for sexual harassment. They will cover all the statutory guidance and have exemplar long-term and medium-term overviews, which suggest where you can cover specific themes and how these can then be planned for in further detail for year groups. So when thinking about addressing sexual harassment in the PSHE curriculum, it's important to ensure that any support and any input doesn't shock pupils or shame them. So lessons should be an opportunity which allows pupils to ask questions and explore issues sensitively and respectfully. Also, when thinking about your curriculum, it's important to consider how you have planned to teach about sexual harassment. You should avoid those knee-jerk reactions which might be seen to link to particular incidents, and it can also look like the curriculum is planned as more of a sideline provision. Using a spiral approach like mentioned allows pupils to revisit topics and focus on positive aspects of human relationships and sexuality. By focusing on the positive, pupils learn what is acceptable and unacceptable. We also have a range of resources to support you when planning for this topic. The examples here include the Inclusion, Belonging and Addressing Extremism lesson pack, the Consent lesson pack, resources produced by the Alice Ruggles Trust and the Medway RSE lesson pack. You can find these on our website using the search tool. Okay, so now moving on to our third question. Our local data shows an increase in childhood obesity. What can we do to tackle this through PSHE education? Firstly, it's great that your school is using data to adapt their curriculum to meet the needs of pupils. There are, however, limits on what PSHE can achieve, and it's important to recognise that childhood obesity is affected by a wide range of factors, including economic deprivation, culture, genetics, and so forth. Therefore, it's important to remember that education is just one tool in responding to the needs of children and can't be the whole solution. This is also why it's really important that any teaching about food, exercise, or obesity is managed carefully and take a non-judgmental, non-shaming approach. So first of all, I just want to highlight what the statutory relationships in health education guidance states pupils should know by the end of primary school. We'll have a look at secondary guidance in just a moment as well. So within physical health and fitness, pupils should know about the characteristics and mental and physical benefits of an active lifestyle, the importance of building regular exercise into daily and weekly routines and how to achieve this, the risks associated with an inactive lifestyle, and how and when to seek support, including which adults to speak to in school if they are worried about their health. As part of healthy eating, pupils should know what constitutes a healthy diet, the principles of planning and preparing a range of healthy meals, the characteristics of a poor diet and risks associated with unhealthy eating. And in health and prevention, pupils should know the importance of good quality sleep for good health, and that a lack of sleep can affect weight, mood, and the ability to learn. And in mental well-being, we see a direct link to healthy lifestyles, and that pupils should know the benefits of physical exercise and time outdoors on mental well-being and happiness. So from this, we see that in order to tackle childhood obesity through your PSHE curriculum, you will need to ensure your planning for this topic is set within a wider spiral curriculum where knowledge is built on gradually and topics are revisited. So by the end of secondary school, the statutory guidance states that pupils should know the benefits and importance of exercise and spending time outdoors, understanding the positive association between physical activity and mental well-being, knowing what constitutes a healthy lifestyle, maintaining weight, and the link between an inactive lifestyle and ill health. They should also know how to maintain healthy eating and the links between poor diet and health risks, and about the benefits of good dental health, including healthy eating and regular dental checkups. So just like I mentioned for the primary curriculum, ensuring that you build teaching about obesity into a wider PSHE curriculum, which covers a range of health education, is vital to ensuring pupils receive a full and varied experience. So by linking different aspects, revisiting topics, and building on pupils' knowledge ensures that they develop their skills and attributes whilst continuing to increase their knowledge. And all statutory guidance is covered in our programme of study and programme builders. You will find suggested year groups to teach specific topics. So for example, in this primary thematic long-term overview, health and well-being is covered over the summer term and physical health and mental health is taught at the start. However, it is up to you as a school how you wish to teach these topics. So you may find your pupils would benefit from starting the year with health and well-being or revisit it continuously throughout the year. So we also have a questions-based model which will support you to plan so that a core theme can be revisited more than once in a term. And providing pupils with the information they need to make good decisions about their own health and well-being, together with building on their skills and attributes, should enable them to recognise what is a healthy lifestyle and also to seek support from trusted adults if they have any concerns. Embedding healthy lifestyles into your PSHE curriculum will support pupils to develop their knowledge, skills and attributes throughout their school life. And having explored statutory guidance and how you could plan for tackling obesity through a spiral curriculum, all of this is taken into account in our own materials and our own health education pack of resources, which cover Key Stage 1 to Key Stage 4. So the health education pack focuses on physical activity and healthier food choices and the importance of leading a balanced, healthy lifestyle, as well as ways to overcome barriers and influences that might prevent someone from making healthy choices. Lesson plans addressing other aspects of health education include mental health, sleep and dental health, and these are all available from the PSHE Association website. So now on to our final question. I took over PSHE leadership at my school a year ago. How do I know if what I've done is working? So this is another really good question, and it's great to hear that you've already started thinking about what you can do to check what you've been doing has been effective. So I would suggest that the first place to start, which you may have done when you first started PSHE as PSHE lead at your school, is to use our subject review tool. So this is a great way to evaluate your PSHE leadership and curriculum by identifying your strengths and priorities for development through the review tool, and then planning your next steps using the development plan. So the subject review tool will help you to first evaluate leadership, management, and the organisation of PSHE. Then you will evaluate the curriculum, including statutory RSHE content and the teaching and learning in PSHE education. As a PSHE lead, these are the core areas which you will need to review and check. Once you've completed the review, and you will receive an email suggesting some next steps. That is when you can check the details of the subject review tool against the subject review and development programme to prioritise areas for development. Once you've completed this, you can then use our development plan to record measurable goals and identify actions to achieve those goals. I also wanted to talk about the subject development tool in detail. So this is a really fantastic way for you to identify next steps, not only for your leadership, but for the teaching and learning in PSHE. So once you've evaluated what you've already put in place, using the development plan will help you to organise specific measurable goals, which you can come back to the next time you want to evaluate your leadership of PSHE or other areas covered by the plan. So the plan covers three main areas, and these being leadership management and the organisation of PSHE, the PSHE curriculum, including statutory RSHE, and the teaching and learning in PSHE. The exercise then consists of identifying those measurable goals I mentioned for the three key areas. You will need to think about not only what you want to achieve, but how it will be achieved, who will be involved, when do you aim to achieve it, and how will you measure success. So by having a clear plan for what you want to work on as a school and as a leader will make it easier for when you next come to review your leadership and things that you've put in place. I also wanted to share the importance of involving the pupils and teachers when evaluating the PSHE curriculum and anything that you have implemented. It's important to consider their views as having a PSHE curriculum which reflects their needs is vital in providing the best provision. We have a number of resources which you may wish to use, including a lesson plan to help gather student views. And we also have editable pupil questionnaires. This means that you can change the questions to make the questionnaire specific to a certain area or keep it more general. We've also developed a teacher questionnaire, which will support you in evaluating PSHE teaching and give you the opportunity to hear from teachers what they think is going well or what they feel could be changed or improved. So using these resources will hopefully support you when evaluating what you have implemented as a PSHE lead and continue to support you on your PSHE journey. You may also want to consider carrying out some lesson drop-ins or observations or work scrutinies to help you monitor provision across the PSHE department. And finally, just to say thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Ask a Subject Specialist. We hope you found this advice helpful, and please do continue to submit your questions if there are any you would like us to keep answering. You can contact us using our email address, info@pshe-association.org.uk, and if you put in the subject line, Ask a Subject Specialist. So do keep checking back for future episodes, and thank you so much for joining us.